Happy Monday, y'all. How you doing?
Couch Monday.
We're going to change the intro to that. No.
Oh, to what I just said?
Yeah.
I was like, what? You going to cut out my intro?
No.
That's what I thought you meant.
We're going to change it from the cool little beat to that. Unless you start freestyling.
It sounds like back to back. What is it? Tuesdays on UPN.
Oh, wow.
You know how you never forget music?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like anytime you have ad libs or a song that you memorize, you'll never forget it ever.
And you can hear one thing that'll like set you off and you just
go
into that So my tantrum I always go into is the Golden Girls one. Because the dude on Twitter did the remix.
Oh, yeah? And that was funny as hell.
Oh, my God. That's the only version. We actually sang it at my Neo's wedding.
That's funny. Because I was laughing the other day. What's his name? The reggae guy, Sean Paul. Mm-hmm. Sean Paul came on when I was somewhere. And I remember what somebody put on Twitter. They're like, what's that song? That's like, baka daka daka daka. But when I listened to it and I heard it, I was like, oh, shit, it does sound like that. Just give me the light. Baka daka baka daka. Exactly. You're like, what did he say? But even if you memorize it or learn it wrong, it's still wrong. Like,
it's still wrong.
There's quite a few songs I just like recently was like, oh my gosh, that's what they were saying.
They kind of break my heart. T-Pain like did one where he said what he actually said, and I was like, dang, I've been singing it wrong my whole life.
I'm wrong. It's all right. I mean, that's what Rap Genius is for. Shout out one of my favorite apps, which is going to be another episode.
Hey.
But today we're talking about something that we both love to do. What's that, Carlie?
Travel, seeing the world. Man, this is one of my favorite topics. And I mean, you know, it's right, getting close to the holidays. So a lot of people trying to travel to see family, to explore new places. Mm-hmm. And we thought it would be great to talk about getting away.
Yep, because I'm always gone. Every time I see my friends in LA, like they don't even say like, hey, how are you? They literally, the first thing they say is, oh, how long you here for? And then I'm always laughing like, haha, shut up. But I am leaving next Tuesday.
Whenever we first started being friends and be like, yo, are you here this week? Nah, I'm not here. Man, I'm not here next week. That's literally, we were trying to hang out for like months. God. But I would be gone and she would be gone. And then we finally worked it out. And now we both still be gone.
Right. We still be gone, but we make things work somehow. So I guess first things first, Carlie, what do you love about traveling? Like, why is it such an important thing for you?
Oh, my God. What do I not love? Okay, there are some things I do not love about traveling. Well. That's a whole other list. I love it because it's exposure to different things. Like, it opens your mind and, like, your soul in a way that you didn't even know was possible. Like, you see things and just able to experience things in person just creates a whole new world and helps you know all of the things that are out there. And
a whole new world.
I'm about to see. Here we go. We're gonna be singing all day. We're gonna be singing all day. But to experience culture, that's really probably one of my favorite things is to learn from other people and just to enjoy it, like their food and their customs, and to appreciate their way of life. I feel like in the U.S. is so much like, oh, we grew up with, we do everything right and we're the best country in the world, like all these things, but we didn't get a chance to appreciate other people. Mm-hmm. And so that's probably my favorite thing. Is travel important to you? Why is it important to you?
That was such a Carlie answer you had just gave, but then it turned into partly what I would say. For traveling abroad, definitely I love culture. My mom is from another country. I've been traveling since I was a kid, and I've always enjoyed culture. I always enjoyed language and things like that, different foods. But another thing that I just love about travel right now, because I've done so much like domestic travel. Like this year, I've been all over the place, like every other week. Yeah. And even just with that, I just like getting away. And I don't know if that's even really a good or bad thing, because since I moved to LA, and there's so much to offer here and so much to see that I haven't even seen yet. But I still just love, like, it's something about just going somewhere else. And I feel like that's a break for me. And so somehow I equate traveling to relaxing and just, you know, being in a different space and like being able to kind of have a mindset switch as well.
Like a reset button.
Yeah. It's like a little reset for me. So even when I'm traveling a lot for work, it still feels like I can kind of make that, you know, somewhat of a little bit of a getaway. Yeah. So I enjoy that feeling about it.
You definitely have to, especially whenever you're taking work trips. Like, even, if it's to the city down the street, like, go explore. Or even in LA, I like to do staycations. Because, on an entrepreneur budget, sometimes, where I want to go is not necessarily what I can afford. And so I'll go explore some of the amazing things that LA has to offer.
That is true. When I first moved here, my brother and I, because we moved around the same time, like we really tried to explore it first. So we would go to the beach, we would go to, just the different neighborhoods, different areas, museums, especially. There's so many. I remember we were going to the Broad and just all of these different things, gardens and little Tokyo, just different areas. It's like really cool. You're right. Like just to go around.
Yeah, we did that here too.
There's still so much. The one thing I want to do for sure in LA that I still haven't done yet is that submarine to Catalina.
Oh, because Catalina, I want to do that too.
Yeah, I saw a submarine. I said, submarine? What? I think it was like $30. So
yeah,
it's probably not like a Navy submarine, but I think you're just in this thing and it just goes
Submerges.
like right under and goes over. Probably like a little ferry. Ugh, ferries make me so sick.
Yeah.
But I think that's cool too. So
it is. You remember our little staycation? Whenever we went down to like the OC area.
Oh yeah, look, I was like
oh, that must have been my
wrong
other
girl.
Lex. My other Lex.
Wrong girl. Yeah, no, that was cool. Yeah, so Carlie was visiting with some people who had come into town. Where was that?
It was Laguna Miguel.
Laguna Miguel. And I went down there and it was like super cool.
Oh my God.
It was like a resort, but even we were just in there like working and I took a fire picture of Carlie on the balcony
She did.
with
Shout
the
out to
light hitting
Lex.
her just right because that's what I do when we travel.
She does.
And
She be doing the splits when she does it too.
And it was cool though. That was fun actually.
Yeah.
We need to do something else like that. We need a beach day too. You live by the beach.
God, for sure. And we also need to do the submarine.
Yeah, submarine too. So Carlie, just to back it up to the past.
Back in it.
Oh, wow, this really is what we're gonna do, huh?
Oh
this whole
God.
time. When did you start traveling?
I've always done domestic travel. Like my mom would do like little staycations. Like she made it a point to, take us to a hotel, even if it was just a city over, just so we could kind of get away, which I loved.
Hotels are cool too, because you really, even if you're down the street, you feel like you're somewhere else.
Yeah, you're somewhere else. And when you're little, you're like, yeah, like, this is an adventure and like everything in life. And we would go to places like around Oklahoma. Like I have family, like a lot of my family lives in Texas. And so we would drive down there. We took a lot of road trips. And then my mom's twin, that's when I first started getting like further away from Oklahoma. And we went to like Orlando and different places. So I started traveling.
Where all have you lived?
I've lived in Oklahoma, a couple cities there, and then Texas and California.
Okay.
So only, not a lot. That's actually why I decided to come to, one of the reasons why I decided to move out here for business school is I was like, man, I've already lived in Texas.
Right.
And I was born out here, but raised in Oklahoma. I still don't know.
Right.
But yeah, what about you? Where have you lived?
Okay, so for me, that's why I traveled so much as a child, because we lived in a lot of different places. So I was born in Nashville, Tennessee. My father's from Memphis, so my grandmother and like my aunts, cousins, a lot of them are in Memphis, Tennessee. So we lived in Tennessee, then we moved to Kentucky, then we moved back to Tennessee, then we moved to North Carolina. And North Carolina is where I spent most of my time. So already being in North Carolina, it was just me and my parents and two brothers. So we always like to see my grandma, to see any cousins, to see any of my mom's family. We had to travel. So I remember those long, like 12-hour drives we used to do to Memphis, and we used to listen to stuff like the Stylistics and like the Temptations. And my dad had these tapes, and we used to call them the Memphis tapes because it's like the only thing we listened to when we went on that long drive. So it's like kind of memories when I hear certain music to that too. Like I said, we used to fly to the Bahamas all the time back in the day when you didn't have to have like a full passport. You could just show your birth certificate and just hop over and come back. And so I did a lot of travel like as a kid before my teenage years, just because of that and because my family was far apart. But yeah, since North Carolina, then I moved to D.C. area. So I was in Maryland. I lived in D.C. I lived in Virginia. And then I moved to California. So this is technically my 7th state.
Oh, wow. But for someone who doesn't necessarily understand the DMV, because I've only been there once.
Yeah, it's all the same.
It's all super close, right? Like you can just hop over.
Yeah. So like when I was in Maryland, I literally was like a mile from the DC border, but it's totally different. Like then when I lived in DC and like hopping hopping out of my condo and like walking all around. And then versus where I was in Virginia was still like, that's when I started driving the most because I was like 50 miles away.
Oh, God.
No, I wasn't. I'm lying, 25 because I used to drive 50 like a day going back and forth like from my office. So I was further out. So but it is super close. So that's the easy one where it's like, it's all like one place.
But that's like Norman, where I went to the University of Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner for undergrad, and it's only a 2.5 hour. I can make it in 2 hour drive to Dallas, and so it's super close. And I don't do that every time, but sometimes you need to.
Well, so what would you say? Because I guess a lot of domestic. Well, for me, let me back up. For me, I feel like I did way more international travel than domestic. Let's say through my college years now. I feel like I saw way more countries than I saw states because I didn't really feel like I had a reason to see different states. Like I only was traveling to see family, really. But for you, when did you start traveling internationally? And
So when I was little, it was all domestic. Like it was driving around different states. Like we went to Arkansas and Texas and Florida, drove through all those. But whenever I got to college, I took a couple cruises, and that's when I first started getting. I don't really like cruises.
I love it because all the food.
Yeah, but for me, they're like, oh, you can eat anything you want. But I'm like, but you're giving me a set of options that you control that I can't control. So it's not really anything I want. It's anything
It's
that
like
I want.
12 different places to eat on the boat.
It depends on the boat. I know, and I'm not saying I hate them. I just prefer to fly somewhere and be able to explore. Like I don't like, because whenever we went to Mexico, we only had a couple hours to explore, and I was like, man, I just wanted more time there.
Yeah,
that's why I like flying. But I started with cruises, and then when I started my ventures into business school, that's really what opened the door to international travel for me. And I was actually trying to go to school in Barcelona. Like I got accepted to ESA in Barcelona. I was going to go there. I went over there. That was my first international trip ever, like outside of a cruise.
in grad school?
No, trying to go to grad school. So I was going to Admitted Students Weekend in Barcelona, went by myself, and I was like, yo, this is amazing. And that's really what started. I ended up not going to business school there because God had other plans. And then going to USC, the first year of the program, it's mandatory. Everybody takes an international trip. And that was to Vietnam and Thailand. And then I did some international consulting projects throughout business school that took me to other countries. Started doing vacations with friends to other countries. So that like business school like completely opened the door to opportunities for me to start exploring.
Did you feel like the Barcelona trip is the one that changed your perspective on traveling?
I do. I was going by myself and didn't know what to think or to do. And
were you scared? Or?
It's like scared excitement. It's like I was scared, but it wasn't like I was terrified. I was just like nervous.
Because you were
excited.
an adult, right? Maybe like 20s?
I was 23.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 23. And but I didn't know anything about it, and I couldn't ask anybody in my family because my mom is terrified to travel outside of the country. She was like, unless you move out of the country, I'm never going. And so I had to ask like friends, and like my mentor is very pivotal in helping me. Like, okay, well, you're gonna need a different kind of plug, and you're gonna need this, and you're gonna need this, and she was like so helpful. And she even gave me luggage because I didn't have like the luggage that I needed. And I got there, and I think everybody should take a trip by themselves.
Really?
Yes, I do. Just to travel, because I love traveling with people and it's amazing, but I think there's an opportunity to experience things and learn things about yourself that you can't do when other people are around. Just like there's a time where you need to be by yourself to grow and to grow through things and to learn and just listen to yourself. Traveling did that for me. Like I was like, man, I can't do this. Like I went to a whole other country by myself. When I got on the plane, they were telling me, oh, you'll be able to charge your phone on the plane. Don't worry about it. There were no plugs. It was an old-ass plane from American Airlines. So I'm flying 9 hours across the ocean. God. So I get there. I have 1% left on my iPad that I have from work. And I look just to see what train I needed to get to the neighborhood to get to my Airbnb, because I was staying in an Airbnb. And I I got on the train. I had like my luggage and my phone was dead. My iPad was dead. Spanish was my minor, so I can, get around in Spanish, but Catalan and Spanish is very different sometimes. And I didn't know that. And so anyways, I learned a lot about myself.
And then if you were in Barcelona, then they probably had some Basque speaking.
Yeah, exactly, which is completely different. But I learned that I could do all of those things by myself. Like I had to mitigate my freaking out. And
so for you, that travel experience was like a comfort zone thing, like getting out of your comfort zone.
yeah, that and just opening my mind to other things. Like,
It's so fun just to see
oh my God.
the new things about traveling. For me, I'm not going to include the Caribbean, but for me, one of my first like life-changing experiences with traveling was my trip to Romania because I was 16 and it was on a mission trip. So we were going to do like a VBS, like when you do vacation Bible school, we were going to do like some work with kids. And so it was a group of us, maybe, I don't remember how many adults, maybe 5 to 7 adults, but then it was only a couple kids, me and this other girl named Heather. And I was like 16, she might have been like 14. But it was so life-changing for me because we were meeting people who didn't have anything and they were just the nicest people I'd ever met in my life. Like we would go to people's homes and they would say, oh, here, have these pretzels, have some of this soda, have this. And like the pretzels were old. They were so old. Like the soda was so flat. But it was like, that's what they had. And they were like trying to give us everything. They wanted to give us everything that they had. And they were so selfless. And then there were the kids. Like I met a 16-year-old girl who was like, wow, you guys are so lucky y'all get to go to school because I want to go to school. But like I work at this factory and only make like $1 every 2 weeks. And I can't afford the bus into the city to go to high school. And so it was just like, wow, like the things we take for granted. I met a little girl who was maybe like 9. She was going blind and she couldn't see. And just the way she was so happy and like running around and playing and stuff. And so it was seeing so much at the age of 16, which is a time when you're kind of, like to that teenage years and a little like irritable and like, I hate everything.
Moody.
Yeah, moody and all of that. And I saw that and I came back and I was disillusioned. I want to ask if you felt this way too, but you were a little older too. But I came back and was just like, everything is terrible here. Like I hated America for a minute. I was there for maybe a few weeks. I had tried to learn Romanian before I went, and that's why I knew it because I used to try to speak it with people there and things like that. And so I really felt like I appreciated the culture and eating. I had cow brains and ate all kind of cool stuff. And then during that trip too, we did some stuff in like Amsterdam, whatever. But as a 16-year-old, I didn't really like do anything turned up there. And then my next probably huge travel was when I was studying abroad. So I lived in Spain for a year when I was at Elon, and I was going to a college there. So I was in school there. And we did like lots of trips. And so with my friends, because we were from all parts of the United States and Puerto Rico, with my friends, like we would do spring break. We went to like France. So we went to Paris. I literally went. And it's so funny. My dad would show me the emails like we did back and forth sometimes because he's like, yo, you were so funny. But I'd be like, yo, I need some money. Like everybody else had so much money. And I'm like, how did I even come out here? I remember going to Spain with like $100. And I lived with a family there. So it was cool. Her name was Angela and the dad was Luis, and like they cooked everything, so I was like eating real good. They took care of me, but like we went to Paris, and I probably had like $10, and we found like a hotel. We were figuring things out, and it was just so adventurous, like figuring stuff out, being on the metro. At the time, I was a kleptomaniac. You thought this episode was gonna go without an issue coming out, but you're wrong. I was a kleptomaniac, like crazy. So I was like taking everything. I was taking scarves because I just thought I was like some international criminal. It was just a weird phase. And then one day I woke up and I had all these like hives on my hands, and I was like, God, I understand. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do it again.
You retired from your life.
I still have like my favorite
scarf.
I almost went to jail in France too.
What?
And yeah, because I was like hopping all the metros and like they were trying to like stop me and stuff. It was wild. I was tripping. I used to like take like bottles of alcohol out of like the stores and stuff. I was tripping, but I just thought I could get away with it, and I did for the most part. Carlie's like, I'm glad you turned your life of crime around.
But you have good stories and you learn from it.
I'd be having awesome stories, and sometimes you don't realize it until
after.
You're like, oh shoot, I did used to be a crazy criminal.
But you also wouldn't be who you are if you didn't go through that.
Yeah, man, that was good times. Minus when I got those hives, and then I was like, let me chill.
God was like, yo.
But I still have my favorite scarf from 2005 when I was in Spain that I got in Spain. I don't know if I bought it or not, but I like have never washed it, and it like smells terrible, but I like love it. It has so many memories, and not to keep going and going, but one thing that I thought was really cool about that trip, when I was in Spain, I had this huge notebook, and every day I wrote down the things I did.
Oh,
and so
wow.
I think it's at home in North Carolina at my parents' home, but I had stumbled across it at some point since then, because that was, 13 years ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking through, and like every day, I tried to make sure I wrote something every day. And it's almost like I forget these stories, but when I open it and look at it, I'm like right back. And all my friends and people like that I hung out with, and we did all these cool things with, and notes that they wrote in there for
That's
me.
beautiful.
So it was so, so cool. So I just really enjoy exploring. I'm super into exploring and adventure, and I just had so much fun. So like it was life-changing to see how other people live and other people's mindset when you're coming from a place of so much abundance, even though
Yep.
you're not. Because it's like at home, I don't feel like I have anything, and I kind of didn't. But at the same time, it wasn't that. And at the
Yep.
same time, I didn't have the same joy with the things that I had. And so that really, really changed my life. And so I enjoyed traveling just to be on the level of the people around me. I'm not ever going anywhere acting like a tourist. Like I never have. I don't even like being like real extra with pictures that much and stuff like that. Cause I really my goal is to fit in. So
Yeah.
that's what I really like about it. The culture.
Yeah, and you learn so much. It's the culture, it's the adventure. Like, it's one of those, like, cheesy quotes, but it's not really cheesy. It's like stuff fills your house, but adventures fill your soul. Like, if you're investing in travel, like, that's, like, it really changed me. You mentioned that, it made you kind of look at America differently.
I hated it. I was so disillusioned.
Yeah. Well, why were you disillusioned? Like, what about it?
Because we take everything for granted mostly. Like I was like, yo, these kids are like telling me I'm lucky because I get to go to high school. Like not even talking about college and stuff. Like they're telling me I'm lucky because I go to high school. They're telling me I'm lucky because I can get glasses and shoes and stuff like that. So, oh my gosh, I'm about to get emotional. But like that, I came back and was like, everybody around me just, it was like, yo, y'all don't know how other people live, or you've never seen anything else. And so I don't think I got preachy around other people. I couldn't hang out as much anymore. I couldn't identify as much anymore with people who, like, you didn't enjoy what you had. And probably for a minute, I was like, not like turning into a monk, but like I was probably kind of more chill for a little while. But of course, like, you come back into it and it's like, well, everything's crazy, whatever. But again, like anytime I traveled and gone back anywhere, like I feel like I just get it more.
Yeah. And I think that that's so important. I didn't get mine necessarily there in Barcelona because, I was with the school, so I saw really great parts. But I did an international consulting project in Thailand where we did, oh my God, it was so freaking dope, for the Asian Pacific Economic Council Business Advisory Council. So it's called APAC. And USC is the only school that has this relationship with APAC
cool.
Business Advisory Council. And they've had it for like the last 17 years. It's so freaking amazing. That was one of the goals in business school, because that's the only regret I really have from undergrad is I didn't study abroad because I didn't think I had enough money. I didn't think I'd be able to afford it.
I think that's why I chose my school, because I had to do that for my program. And I think it was like the same as your tuition kind of. So it's like, all right, if
so
I'm
it's
in
just
school
part
anyway,
of it. You might as well.
Yeah.
And that's my only regret, is that I didn't do that. So in grad school, I was like, nope, I'm doing it. It doesn't matter. So every chance, like I, went out for that. And that was a lot of research. But it was beautiful, and we got to go do interviews, and like we each got different economies. They're called economies and not countries in this thing in APEC, and we had different ones. And I actually got to go to Malaysia.
Oh, cool.
And like they paid for the research and all that stuff. Like we still had to come out of pocket.
It was like
for
your
some
whole
things.
class, or like the program?
No, it wasn't. It was only 12 of us out of 230-ish. And so.
Ooh. What? Finish your story.
So I went to Malaysia, and my driver, like because they paid for a driver because it was cheaper than like public transit doesn't go everywhere, and so it was better. And me and him were talking. Like he was my travel buddy the whole time I was in Malaysia. I was there for like 9 days. It was me and him, and he, like during my interviews, he'd be like, "Hey, do you want to go see like the KL Towers?" I'm like, "Yeah." So we'll go do that. Or you want to go to the park?
And somebody who lived there, you're saying?
Yeah, he's from there. His name is Roosty. We actually still talk sometimes on WhatsApp. What's up, Roosty? He won't know what I'm talking about, but he got to practice his English. And we got to talk about that. But he said the same thing. Like he had to be a taxi driver because his family doesn't have any money. And that's what he does. Like that's how he makes money. But he really wanted to be, like a chef and do all these other things. But he didn't have that opportunity. And my dad is from a different country. And my mom would always tell me, because I didn't know my dad when I was growing up, but she would always tell me stories about how like poor he grew up. Like we think, like we were in the bottom, my mom and my family were in the bottom quartile of income, which is quote unquote poor here, but it's not poor in a third world country. And so she would always be like, well, be grateful for what you have, but you don't understand it until you see it.
That is true, because my mom didn't even have plumbing when she was
Exactly.
growing
My dad
up.
didn't either.
That's interesting. One thing you said before, you talked about what you loved about traveling alone. And in this one, you were like, oh, it's a group of 12 of us. That made me think about something, too, that have you ever traveled and it's like you've been embarrassed by the people you're with?
Oh, my God.
Like, I hate traveling with groups. And this is international. I hate traveling and being in groups, like, or if you're on a trip and they're like, everybody wear this T-shirt or something. I'm like,
the loud
no,
Americans.
absolutely not. Yes.
The loud, rude.
Stand that.
They already hate us. Like a lot of
And you
people
already
hate
look
Americans.
crazy. I used to always just speak Spanish. Like, I could be anywhere. I was be in France, Amsterdam, Italy, anywhere. And I'd always speak Spanish first. And I hate to say, like, oh, I wasn't proud to be American, but we just had such a bad, like, rep. And so I feel like people would appreciate it more when you came at them with more of, like, a cultural standpoint than being American.
100. I think it goes both
And sometimes
ways.
it could be dangerous, too, actually, like, coming out, like, real extra loud American.
Well, yeah, because in a lot of countries, that's what they told us. Because my whole school went. I went to USC, so our whole school went, and so it was groups of like 75. We went to Vietnam and Thailand together, and I was so nervous because I was like, well, what if this big group of people causes a ruckus, or they're loud, or they disrespect the culture? Like we could go to jail. Like there are literally things that can happen if you're disrespecting the culture, and so you're at the mercy of whatever the group of people you're traveling with. So think about that. But whenever I did the International Consulting Project, we went to Peru together, but I went to Malaysia by myself, which was cool. But yeah, so you do have to think about, like when you're traveling with people, like, are they respectful? Are they going to play around? Because you can end up in jail. Like, that's why my mom is scared to travel, because she watched those like locked up abroad shows.
Yeah.
And she's terrified.
Yeah, but that's a good thing about having a little melanin. I feel like people never could straight up assume. They'd always be like, "Oh, you're Dominican, or you're something." Or they would just guess something. And
everywhere I go,
I'd be like,
claims me.
Yeah. And I could say anything and be like, "All right, cool." So then you mentioned a few places. So what are the countries internationally you've been to? And just like maybe quick notes on like what you liked best, or like if you really liked it or you didn't really like it.
So Spain, just because it was adventure, it's very beautiful. The architecture, oh
yes,
my God,
the architecture
Gaudí.
of Barcelona.
Oh, like La
amazing.
Sagrada Familia, like all of those. Oh, it's just beautiful. And then the beach, like it's beautiful. Peru, the food. Oh, the food and the people. The food and the food. Can I say the food again? Because the food in Peru is so
Food everywhere
good.
for the most part.
What I'll say is in Barcelona, like I have been wanting to try paella since I started taking Spanish. And me and my best friend met me out there after a couple of days, and we tried it, and we were like, it's so bland, because Americans tend to overseason food. And so certain places,
you didn't have a good one,
I know we didn't. And so I was actually a little bit disappointed in the food, but they had chocolate croissants and then their coffee that I like changed the game.
Yeah.
So Peru's food, Colombia, just the culture, the food. We went to Medellin. Like Medellin, oh my God, it was everything. Cartagena was okay. It was super touristy, and I don't really like touristy spots, but the beach is cool. And they have a UNESCO World Heritage Site that, because Colombia was actually the largest slave port in South America. So there's a lot of history there that people don't understand and don't know about until you're there. So they have a walking tour where you can learn more about it. And then Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam.
Asia.
Which Vietnam is just so cool because they're bustling. They're transitioning on the development scale, like coming up from a third world country to not, and so seeing the technology and the advances,
It's weird.
like the
It's
scooters.
super techie, but also like
Not.
at the same flip. It's like super not. It's
yeah,
weird.
and you go and people are like sitting outside and there's like scooters and you don't know how people are going to drive, and there's like a family of 6 on one scooter, but they're so
That
nice.
sounds so cool.
It's Vietnam was beautiful. Thailand, I love the islands. I'm not a fan of Bangkok, but I did a lot of research into like human trafficking, and that was my project when I was over there. And so that like
that sounds like probably a little depressing.
yeah, it
trip.
broke my heart, and it's just a lot. But the islands, Koh Phi Phi, Koh Samui, Koh Phangan, and then Malaysia was awesome. But I also had an awesome tour guide in Malaysia. What about you?
That's cool.
I feel like you've been a lot more places.
But kind of different areas. So Bahamas, Jamaica, all that's to me like going like the Caribbean's like okay. Like because I go to the hood spots and I don't be in the touristy areas, and when I go I'm like it's like a bunch of stray dogs and we're like all just playing in the street and doing chores at my aunt's house.
It's like home.
Dominican Republic. In high school. When I graduated from high school, I went to Dominican Republic with my best friend, Rosa. Shout out Rosa Colado, who had family down there. She was from there. And, like, my parents let me go, so that was really cool. Saw somebody get hit by a car. That wasn't cool. Oh. But it was, like, really fun. And we were, like, down there being too grown.
God.
Canada. I have an uncle in Canada. I really want to go to Montreal, though. I haven't done that.
What part of Canada have you been to?
The boring part in the middle somewhere.
Oh, okay. I'm about to say, I have no idea.
I have no stories from that. England was probably my least impressive country trip. The food was nothing.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I heard the food was terrible.
Like, the only food that was good was fast food. Like, even the fish and chips, like, the chips, all right, cool. Like, that's literally it. Like, I see why you conquered the world looking for seasoning, but it would have been cool if you actually used it. Because you don't. But outside of that, Spain, of course, all over, France, Amsterdam, Croatia. I was at recently last year. I went to Yacht Week in Croatia. But the best part was the Game of Thrones tour we did in Dubrovnik was super awesome. Highly recommend. Czech Republic.
That's awesome.
Romania, Bulgaria, Italy.
I feel like you better start singing.
Not really China, although I almost had an incident there. Korea, my youngest brother lives in Korea. He's stationed there. He's a captain in the army. That was super cool. They were super teched out. And I came home and was like, man, I feel like a peasant. Because everything in his house was like moving and was a robot.
Oh, yeah.
It was awesome.
Have you been to Japan yet? Because I heard Japan's like technology, like trounces
and Japan
us.
looks fire because I've seen some people I know go recently and everybody's like fashioned out. Like it looks like a straight up fashion show everywhere.
I heard it's so clean and beautiful. Yeah.
I feel like I'm probably missing quite a few things. Actually, Germany, some other stuff, but where I have not gone, where I would like to go, I've had Morocco on my list for a long time.
Oh my God,
but I have
me too.
not been to any countries in the continent of Africa, so I would really like to do some travel there, more in Southeast Asia that you've done. Oh, Colombia. I spent time in Cartagena, but I was at like a house, so I was by myself. That was my by myself trip. So that was like a chill, I'm relaxing trip. But I would want to do more of South America too as well.
Peru, I'll go for the food. And for Machu Picchu. Cusco was beautiful also.
Mexico, have you been to Mexico?
Only on
I think
cruises.
I've only been to like Cancun. I don't think
I've only been on the cruises, but I want to go again because like my best friend loves Mexico and she just can't stop raving about it. I'm like, man, I need to go.
We live right, like we can
down
hop on
the
a
street.
bus, $7 and go. We just might not come back, but we can go. Because I think at the top it's like a little rough, but
a little
whatever.
Rough. But I heard Rosarito, that one of my classmates got married there. It's a little bit south. If you just keep driving, I heard it's beautiful, beautiful beaches, great food. I'm here for every, all the tacos, all the burritos, all the salsa.
So one thing I do want to say though, Carlie, is that people probably listen to us like, these girls, all right, like, cool, you've been all over the place. Like, who do you think you are? Why does that matter? Like, so do you think you're better than me?
Nah.
Absolutely not. I see a lot of times there's like shaming online and on social media about traveling. Like if you went to Dubai, it's because somebody flew you out and you're doing all this crazy stuff with some random person. Or, why are you over here hyped about going to a city over with your boyfriend for a trip? Like you ain't even been nowhere.
Man,
or you don't have no passport.
That.
You can't get no passport. It's only $100. And traveling can be expensive.
Oh my God, so expensive.
As for me though, I've always been an advocate for you do what you want to do. And because I've been exposed to it more young, I know that I enjoy traveling so much that for me, anytime I get some bread, like that's why I'm out of town. Like that's just what I'm gonna do.
Boom.
Because that's what I enjoy. But to people who are quick to say, so I don't like both sides, right? I don't like the whole, you need to get a passport, see the world. Like you aren't living until you get a passport necessarily like with that attitude behind it. But I would encourage anybody like put aside a little bit because they are like $100 and something. But also I agree, like, okay, you got a passport. Now what? That doesn't mean I could just go to China and afford to stay there for a week. So I get that too, but you can definitely start in a lot of places that's not crazy.
Yeah, and you can start small. That I just saw something that was like, well, I'm trying, getting my child a passport and traveling them. So your dusty son, so my daughter won't be impressed when your dusty son tries to take her to Atlanta.
Right. And it's like, why do you have that
why are you
outlet?
hating? Like, maybe he saved up all his coins to take her
Right.
to Atlanta and they're going to have a great weekend and that's fine.
Right.
Like, I think people are so judgy. And I only say that coming from, I want to reiterate, like, I don't come from money. And so traveling
I don't either.
in my head was
and people
like
will
never
see you
an
moving
option.
around and be like, oh,
y'all got all the money.
Like,
No, boo, like I
I'd have
saved
spent
up.
my last $100 just to do that.
Yeah, like I don't know how I'm paying my rent next month,
Right.
but which may not be smart, but that's a risk that I'm
Literally.
taking. But I am from Oklahoma, and growing up, like I said, my mom hasn't ever been out of the country, and it's just not a thing for her. So for me to be able to travel, like I was so blown away at just being able to be in a different country. Like I almost want to start crying because like I'm so grateful for the opportunity because I know some people don't ever get it, and even walking
You have
around
to do
LA,
it to get it.
Well, even walking around LA, I'm like, man, I actually live here sometimes because it's not a thing that I thought would happen. Like I look around, I'm like, oh my God. Like
I do that every morning when I see palm trees and I'm like, wow, like this is cool because
Yeah,
it's different than
it's-
what you maybe grew up with.
or what you thought was in your reach at one point in time. And so, God has blessed me. And, even with my student loans, because I paid a lot of money to go to USC and a lot of those student loans, like it was a mandatory trip, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like I'll pay that off. I don't mind because it poured so much back into me and it's helped, reframe the way that I see the world and broaden my perspective. Like it's such a beautiful thing. Like I wouldn't change it. And so, but yes, it's expensive. Traveling is very expensive. But I think start small. Like if you want to go to a different state, go to a different state. I did another international consulting project in undergrad because I was an engineer. So we had one, and the other team we were working with was in Ireland. And so the day we presented, they flew over. And I wasn't exactly on that team, but I ended up staying in a room with a girl from Ireland. And I was like, oh my God, like I just want to go to different countries. That's so cool. You're like traveling the world. And she looked at me and she was like, why don't you travel here, in her accent? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, it's not cool to go to different states. She was like, Carlie, all of the other countries you're thinking about are as big as states.
Yeah.
And they're different. She's
is
like, the
true.
culture is very different. She's like, I can drive 3 hours and be in a different country. She's like, that's you driving to different states. She was like, I want to go to all 50 states. And that really like struck something in my head. I was like, this is back in I was like 20, 21. I was like, oh wow, like why do I look down on traveling in the US? And so that changed my mind. And now I want to I do want to travel the US because there is a different culture. There's such a different vibe, like from the East Coast to the South to the West Coast to all the little places in between.
More, state travel lately and seen a lot of states that I had never been to before. Like I just went to New York for the first time, just went to New Orleans for the first time, like recently in the last couple of years. Yeah, so like nothing beats that food. But yeah, like there is so much to see even throughout the US. So definitely travel as much as you can. Let's give them some of our like travel tips quick. Let's shoot through them.
Hit that
I'm
thing.
gonna throw one. So for me, I always recommend trying to learn a little bit of the language, even if it's just hello, thank you,
Where's the
please.
bathroom?
Yeah, look.
How much do things cost?
Just do one of the apps and try to just learn a few of them. And when you're abroad, if it's internationally, try to communicate. I think people appreciate that effort, and I think they will look at you with a little bit of respect because it's like, oh man, you're kind of struggling, but you're here trying to be on my terms instead of coming here trying to be like, oh, why don't anybody speak English?
Yeah, exactly. Because you're in their country, which is my next tip is culture. Like read up on it, customs, things that are disrespectful, because there are some things you might not understand and you don't want to offend anybody when you're traveling, but you also want to, appreciate it. If you learn a little bit more before you go, you'll be able to like truly experience it and enjoy it.
And some things are different on the other side to where slurping is like a compliment or things that you might not be used to. Burping might be a good thing. A
Not
thumbs
turning
up
down
might mean
food.
something different somewhere else.
Yeah, we're not turning down food. If you have a host, then that might be rude.
Putting your feet up is like terrible in a lot of different cultures. So I think you can do just some quick Googles just to learn stuff like that. Another one, I would say, don't be naive. So don't go somewhere and just be running all over the place like you can just figure everything out. But also, explore what's real and authentic in that place. It's always fun and cool and safe to be in touristy areas. Well, let me not say it's always any of that, but I think there's just something a little bit more and adventurous about like really getting in the streets and especially if you're traveling with somebody or if you've made a friend, I would say try to make a friend. Of course, as a woman, like some of this stuff is kind of different. Like when I was in Cartagena, like and I speak Spanish, but I was not going to be like out in the middle of like the night at parties and clubs and stuff, because I was like, nah, I'm good on that. But do be safe, but like integrate and try some new things.
And try to get off the unbeaten path. Like make a friend, like I did with my driver, or you might with like a server or somebody, like a tour guide. Like they do have tour guides where you can pay. And we did a lead tour in Medellin, and it was absolutely amazing. And we got to ask him questions about the culture and how they feel about colorism, and or do they get upset about all the people coming down there because of Pablo? Like, you know, we really got to ask all the questions, but in a very respectful way.
I like conversations like that because it's interesting how different we are when we talk about stuff in our own like areas or states, but then how people view the same types of issues is always interesting to abroad. So also, because we were talking about how like we really don't have money like that, and somehow we just be traveling.
Not yet, Lloyd.
I have certain resources and like certain hacks that I use. I'm the master for domestic travel. I'm the master of hopping off the layover. And I'm like the carry-on master too. I try to travel with just a carry-on.
Same.
And nowadays, guys, people try to go with the craziest bags as a carry-on, and they let them. So I'm like, whatever, I'm going to do that. But I use Skiplagged, the app, so I can tell it where I'm trying to go, but they'll look for those layovers. And a lot of times I'll get a cheap one. Like a few weeks ago when I went to DC, I literally got the ticket the day before, and it was $160 going to Toronto, first of all. So I was like, bet for the future.
Yeah.
It was $160, and I just hopped off in DC and had my trip.
So how does that work? So you just, because I've never done it.
You put in where you want to go, and so they'll pull up all these different scenarios. Sometimes it really is just going there. Sometimes it's just cheaper, like going somewhere else. Like coming back, it's always like going to San Diego or somewhere else, but it stops in LAX, and it's just cheaper than when they know you're going to LAX for some reason.
Yeah.
The only thing with that, again, you have to be a carry-on master because you can't check your luggage. And I've only had an issue one time where a flight got moved or canceled, and so they were trying to send me to the original place, and I was like, oh, actually, I'm trying to go over here. And they were like, oh, that's cool because you have within 2,000 miles or something. So they did send me to wherever I was going, probably DC. So for the most part, it's pretty good. So I like that, and Skyscanner. And one other thing is Airfordable. So Airfordable, it's actually a company that was created by a Black woman. And you can find your ticket, put it up there, and they will let you pay for it over time.
Oh, that's awesome.
So they take care of it so you can get that price now instead of waiting till it's closer and it gets more expensive. And that way, so you can try to plan something for, next spring or whatever. But now all right, I'm paying like $30 on this a month or however much.
Yeah, so it's like layaway for a plane ticket, but they purchase in advance.
And it's not even like a crazy interest or anything like that
that's
either.
Beautiful.
So look it up, AIRFORDABLE, I believe, Airfordable.
Yes. And come on, Black women entrepreneurs, let's do it.
I found her on LinkedIn ASAP and was like, hello. And she was like, what's up? I was like, bet. I was like, I'm going to use your services.
No, that's awesome. I love that.
What you got?
The same, like just looking across, so Airfare Watchdog, Kayak, like she said, Skyscanner, looking at all of these because sometimes they have different fees and fares and things, so you can get just an overview. Also, if you do the Google, is it MTX or ITX?
I don't know.
I think it's either Google MTX or ITX, and they can show you different flight prices on different days, and it just shows you just a basic calendar.
That, when you can be a little flexible.
Yeah, and so you can just be flexible. Like, okay, well, I know I'm trying to go home for the holidays, but if I get there 3 days earlier, it's $500 cheaper. Bet. I can just go work there. Other savings app, you can use Capital with the Q, so QAPITAL, Capital, and then it just saves money. So you're saving a trip, like let's say for your
so it
birthday.
Could be for anything.
Yeah, you can save for anything and just give limits. So 10% of every check that I get goes to this account. And, it's something that you barely even notice. Skim it off the top, and it helps.
That's cool.
And then with all of these things, just another quick one is whenever you are traveling abroad, make sure that you research the other international airline baggage sizes and weights because they are different, and that will screw you over.
I feel like they're way more lax. I feel like ours are
not
the
in
hardest
Asia.
ones.
Not in Asia because they're a lot smaller. Like the sizes are smaller and the weight is like half. And so you might get caught up thinking you only have to pay for this, but you get there and they're like, oh, actually you have to check that bag.
Yeah, when you travel, have a little bit of extra money. I do this so often where I'm like, I remember like when we went to Paris and I was a kid I was in college and I didn't have any money. I literally got out Charles de Gaulle airport and didn't even think about the fact, how am I getting to this hotel? And so I'm in the back of this taxi looking at that meter, and I was like, ooh. I was like, I got like 40 euro in my pocket, and it was like 28, 29, 30,
All right, well,
31.
stop, sir. Thank you.
And I was like, I'm gonna have to roll out of the side. Like I told you I was already living a crazy life. I was like, I'm gonna have to pull a 007.
Yeah, Lex is a spy.
And yeah. And that thing was like 35, 36. And I was sweating bullets. I'm like, shit. Like, and sometimes I still do that, honestly. Like, the last time I went to DC, I'm old. And I still was like, I'm not trying to pay this $400 to get back because I do one ways all the time. And so, but thankfully, the life I live, I was like, well, I'm going to just go down to my parents' crib in North Carolina because I saw a cheaper flight, the next week. And so I worked from their house and got to see them. So somehow, I don't know why I live like this, but I make it work. But yeah, have a little extra because especially doing stuff like what you just said and international, like you don't always get that lenience that you think you might get.
No, you don't.
So be careful.
So on the travel hacks, I have 3 really quick things that are also really important. So one, always travel with, when you're going like long international trips, like I would say like a week, always have like the medical travel pack. It has like a Z-pack with stuff for your stomach and things because you don't know how water or drinks or ice cubes or food in other countries will affect you. I have been so sick, dog. I had to come back and go to the hospital. It was a lot.
Yeah, I used to pride myself on being like, I'm eating everything. I took a shot in Korea. They had at a bar. Wow, I'm wild. They had this bar and it had this big looking vase thing and it had a dead snake in it and it had some alcohol in it. I don't even know what it was.
But you took a shot.
I was like, give me a shot. And everybody was like, dun, 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 dun. Everybody in the bar was looking like, what? I was like, give me a shot. And I was like, and it would just taste like salty dead snake. But
how do you know what dead snake tastes like?
actually, I've had snake too. I've had snake too before.
But that's the thing is you have to try that in
I be
Peru. I
trying
tried
whatever.
Coolie.
Ooh. Did you try? Have you been to the Philippines? Oh,
Not
you haven't
yet.
been
Not yet.
You know the egg? I forgot what it's called.
The duck egg.
Yeah, where they open the egg and eat
Yeah,
it.
it's
My little
still-
brother did that.
It's a delicacy. Like I had ants, like roasted ants, but their ants are like a couple inches large. They're not like American ants
So
in
let me
Colombia.
ask you this then, because I'm not sorry to get off from the last hacks you were trying to do, but is there anything you would not try to eat? You think?
I don't know.
like any type of
I mean,
thing.
I'm sure there's something that I wouldn't. Like chitlins overseas, I'm no thank you also. But I have tried things like lingua, like cow tongue. Like, I've tried a lot of...
You gotta be adventurous, man. That's cool.
They had alpaca meat in Peru, like koi, which is not a gerbil, but not a hamster.
Oh, like a
guinea
guinea
pig.
pig.
It's guinea pig. Koi, CUI is guinea pig.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a little greasy, but it doesn't look like a guinea pig. And then we tried it fried.
Oh, it's so fun. It's so cool. Like all these stories, and I know, you know what? And we didn't say this at the beginning, but so this week I want y'all to, when you screenshot the episode that you're listening,
Hashtag Carlie's Couch.
let us know like one of your favorite countries you've been to. And again, you don't have to explain stuff. Just put it up there, and we'll get it, and people will just have to listen to get it.
Yeah. I want to know like either where you've been that you loved or where you want to go. And like maybe a reason, because, I'm trying to add to my to go-to list.
Right.
And because it keeps growing. My other quick things,
Okay.
real quick, are bring wipes and a fresh change of clothes always. Because
Well, yeah, you need to do that.
well, no, but I mean in your
wherever you go.
backpack. Because like even
Okay,
if you
okay.
check your luggage, like I was on a ferry. I'll make this super quick, but I was on a ferry like in between islands in Thailand. And my luggage was at the bottom of a pile of luggage in the back of the ferry where the guys who piled it were all asleep on top of the luggage. And I tried to use the
were not getting
restroom
to that.
and the boat was sloshing and there was liquid on the bottom of the floor and it got all on me. My hand, I was trying to squat. My hand slipped off the wall and I like bumped up against, because it was super tiny. I bumped up against both sides of the walls. My headset,
You like doing the nay right now.
my headphones.
Please watch the video to watch
Yeah.
Carlie's impression of doing the nay in a pissy bathroom.
My headphones swung out of my ear. I tried to grab them before they touched the thing. My booty like hit it was just a lot. And then I was going back to
I'm so traumatized
Dog.
listening to this.
And then I tried to wash my hands. The water didn't work and there was no soap. And so my wipes, I
gotta
had
be
them
good
because
without soap,
no,
bro.
look, but I had my wipes. They were in my bag, us under the pile of bags and the 2 men sleeping on it. So I'm sitting there and I'm starving because I had been traveling since 4:00 in the morning, and I'm disgusting now, and my hands are disgusting. But I had breakfast in my bag and I just couldn't eat it.
Nah.
As soon as I got onto the bus to go to the train to go to the airport, I pulled out them wipes and cleaned my whole body. Like I was just like, everybody was staring at me like this person. I'm like, yeah, sorry, y'all, I'm starving. So always carry that and a fresh change of clothes with you. Even in your little backpack, figure it out. Just figure it out.
That's real.
Yep. Okay. So, Lex. Sorry, I'm still traumatized. Like,
Yeah, that was disgusting.
oh, God.
So, Carlie and we're always trying to think about 50,000 years ahead.
Always.
But we were like, man, that'd be cool if we had like a little retreat. Like, what if Carlie's Couch got so awesome and so big and everybody was like, go Carlie's Couch, that we'd be like, yo, we're having a retreat. Like, everybody come out. We got a package maybe. Oh, look, I'm coming up with new ideas now.
Oh, man.
We got a little package. Like, we put everything together. It costs this much. Like, come through. Would y'all come?
Yeah.
And don't think we're about to hit y'all with this like next month or anything, because
No,
we're not. But
we're not.
I think because Carlie and I want to try to plan like some little trips anyway. But then it was like, yo, that'd be cool if we like made like a little group thing or like some kind of retreat. So let us know too if you'd be down for that. Like if you're into traveling, like I know there's a lot of groups, and I've seen like Travel Noir and a lot of like there's groups from A&T, NC A&T, where they get together, they make sure they travel every year.
Urban
friends from
getaways.
school. Yeah. So especially right now, I feel like travel has really been something that we've been talking about. We've been showing ourselves going all over the place. And whether we like, yo, meet us down in Chinatown, LA, or whether we're like, yo, we going to Shanghai, like we could figure something out. So I think that would be cool.
Yeah, and if so, like she has a success squad. I'm working on a mastermind thing. We also have like holistic health and wellness. What kind of stuff would y'all be interested in?
Right.
Or everything?
We want to be connected. We want to be like a little community. Carlie's Couch community. Carlie's community.
CC. We'll figure. We'll still work on that.
Yeah, we're working on it.
But that leads us to our shout out. Speaking of amazing getaways and things, shout out to Jaunts and Gems by Jalyn Roberson. That's my old roomie, one of my friends from Dallas. Hey, she's amazing. She has wanderlust and loves traveling, her and her husband. And she puts together these packages, like they have a girlfriend's getaway to Greece, that there's still a couple spots open. There's like girlfriend's getaway to Napa. So they do like a wine weekend. There's a girls and guys getaway to Greece. So, Mykonos, Santorini, all of those places. Like she just has some amazing things, and she can also put together packages for birthdays and things like that. So Jaunts, JAUNTS, and Gems, GEMS. JauntsandGems.com. Jalyn, shout out. You're doing such amazing things.
Yeah, check that out for sure. And all of the resources we mentioned, like get those apps and check them online and just see how much stuff costs. Because sometimes you're surprised that, you can catch something that's not too crazy.
And if you have something that we didn't share, please share it with us, because we're trying to travel the world.
Give me the hacks. If you got a buddy pass that's free, let me know.
Or buddy pass, or everybody say for a discounted amount. We got it. Just screenshot us, Carlie's Couch. Sign up for our newsletter. We'll also include all these resources in the newsletter, carliescouch.com. Lex, hit him with the question of the week.
Question of the week.
Hey.
Pregunta de la semana.
De la semana.
Hey. How can I make my own good fortune? #Carlie's Couch. #Carlie's Couch.
In my head, I was like, fortune cookie. But that's not that's not where we were. Maybe I'm hungry.
I am hungry too, actually.
How can I make my own good fortune? By staying in alignment with my purpose.
Ooh.
By
That's straight to the
chasing
point.
meaningful things that I'm passionate about, and working in my strengths, and by building up those around me.
Ooh, that was good.
Thanks.
Man, it's so wild. Like, as you get self-aware and grow, like, you just like, boom, off the top. Like,
Off the dome.
I already know. For me, how can I make my own good fortune? By staying out of my own way.
Ooh.
Keep it real simple.
Preach to him, Lex.
Real simple.
Keep it simple, sister.
Self-awareness, recognize when I'm tripping, when I'm procrastinating, and be like, nope, flip a switch.
Be self-aware enough to have friends who can also tell you that if you aren't noticing yourself.
Don't tell me nothing I didn't ask you for. Thank you.
But normally,
But thank you, though. But thank you. You're right. We appreciate y'all listening to our episode on traveling.
We do.
We hope you get to see the country and get to see the world and explore with your friends. And
All of the things. All of the things.
It's beautiful out there, yo. Go check it out. Thank you for listening once again, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.